I always wanted to be an animator. It's been a dream of mine since I was 10. Though there's one little detail most animated films fail to convey to their viewers. Animation is hard. And that lesson became very apparent with this project. Can a cartoonist do backgrounds for animation? Earlier this year, I decided to dabble with animating in Clip Studio. I'm still rusty, so I used animatorsisland.com and followed some of the prompts posted there. If I encountered any problems visualizing the action, I'd reference live footage and the Animator's Survival Kit by Richard Williams. Plus, if all else fails, I just go old school, which means breaking out a mirror and doing the action myself. Here are my experiments. Decent, but I can do better. So I created this rough walk cycle. It's 6 seconds long, and I was giddy. It was the first step to learning character animation. I was proud of myself, but I was not content with just having a simple walk cycle. I needed a challenge. It was June. I figured a week would be enough to create a background for this animation. That's just about the time frame most animated TV shows give their background artist to create at least one. For a reference, Kazuo Oga's turnaround time is 1 hour and 30 minutes per background for any given Studio Ghibli film. If you don't know who that is, he helped make these. So I thought, hey, if I can get one done in an hour, why not up the ante? Let's try to do 3. Deadline, 1 week. If I'm quick, I can finish it in 3 days, record the voiceover on Thursday, and have the video out in 2 weeks. Now that sounds realistic. If you followed me for any length of time, you'd know I'm slower than a sloth at a spelling bee. You'd think I'd learn my lesson and make my job easier this time. Perhaps lower the difficulty and just do 1 background instead of 3. But I'm not that kind of guy. I always have to learn the hard way. Spoiler alert, I failed the challenge. Kinda. It's not a complete waste of time. You can learn a lot from failure. Now, sit back and cue the slideshow. Here are the rules. Number 1, 3 backgrounds to study. Number 2, 3 original backgrounds for the animation, plus a bonus background. Bringing the total to not 1, not 2, but 4 backgrounds. They all must be different from one another, setting a different character and atmosphere from the previous one. Past me thought that was a jolly old idea. I definitely won't come to regret that decision later. Let's start with the animation. I wasn't entirely happy with the animation I originally created, so I remade it into this. See the difference? Took me 3 days to do, completing it on August 22nd. With that level of enthusiasm, you would think I'd complete this challenge within a week's deadline. But no. Truth be told, I lost my thirst for life. My art suffered for it. I won't get into any specifics, but it's an ongoing problem affecting my ability to find work. You don't love what you do anymore, and you don't know how to get that motivation back. So what do you do when you lose the plot? Well, study. Here are my studies I did in my office. Some were from my favorite TV shows and movies. You may recognize them. Here are their respective artists on screen. But it's not enough just to study other people's work. You need to study from life. And here are the background studies I did outside. I took these during errands or attending art meetups in my area. These studies lasted 3 weeks. When I thought I'd finish my studies by mid-September, I didn't. Then I just vanished. I was MIA for a month. When I came back to the States, I was still very much lost. It was October then. The next time I decided to start drawing the backgrounds, it was October 20th. I just about lost interest. The last background had too much detail to keep track of, damaging my enthusiasm. So I just settled on getting the perspective right, finishing it later that night. Which prompts us to the next section, the actual work. I learned later that an animated film is a process. It's cut into 3 parts. Background, the farthest part of the picture. Midground, the area where your character is most likely to walk and play. And the optional foreground, the closest part of the picture. I'm going to attempt to not only animate, but composite everything in one program at the same time. In order for this to work, I need to draw each section as 3 separate parts, thus 3 layers. 2 layers will go underneath, while the foreground layer will be ordered on top. The character animation sandwiched in between. This is to simulate the illusion of depth. There's one other condition, but we'll get to that in a minute. Cue the footage. The following backgrounds had a theme assigned. My room, spooky, and quaint, with a mystery bonus. I started out doing a rough for all 3 backgrounds. My room was the first prompt I decided to tackle. I didn't need any photo references for this section because it's literally in front of me. I did take some liberties with how I portray my bedroom/office space to make it slightly more appealing. At this point, I switched over to the Intuos tablet instead of my usual LED screen tablet. Using the smaller tablet midway through the video helped me out of my funk. With the added limitation, I was less likely to zoom in and fixate on every detail. When working, you're all but forced to keep the screen fixed at all times. Additionally, all of it done on one layer for the sake of time. I wasn't concerned with perfection. It was meant to communicate the general idea of each scene. Thus, I was able to churn out all 4 roughs in 2 days. But you'll have to wait to see how bonus turned out. When I was ready to start the refining stage, I lowered the opacity of the roughs to 50%. Once barely visible, I used the 3-layer method for the second pass on my room, moving things around as I see fit to make it look more pleasing compositionally. Once finished inking the line art, I would add a gray color to block out the background from the character. As soon as I laid down my stylus, I noticed something. The character would simply phase through the objects like a ghost. Therefore, the other condition I mentioned rears its head. The solution is to paint the character solid. This means I would have to paint each frame of my animation a solid white color to prevent this issue from happening. And there are about 37 animated frames to paint. Did I also mention the fill tool stopped working? I ended up doing all 37, and it was pretty therapeutic. I just turned off my brain and felt like a kid filling in a coloring book. Of course, I forgot to record the rest of this process. Sorry about that. Nonetheless, here's the result. I cleaned up the first background, leaving 3 left to go. Truth be told, I did pull up Google Images as a reference for quaint and spooky. Not particularly focusing on any one image, just trying to rely on more imagination and memory to fuel the final cut. Then I got lazy again on the refining stage. This was the beginning of November. Naturally, I failed the challenge deadline. 6 months going strong and I'm still procrastinating. What I ended up doing to finish this project was foregoing any deadline altogether. On November 10th, I got back on the horse and finished Spooky. A whole week of no drawing, but all it took was 2 hours to complete it. It was 10 p.m. and I didn't feel tired. It's true what they say. It's always the fear to start that's the hardest. And in a flash, I was done. All that was left was the bonus background. So what is this mystery scene I waited till the last minute to decide? Space. Here's the footage of the rough sketch, followed by the final refinement. And would you look at that, I got to work the next day on November 11th, taking no more than 2 hours to complete. Still not content, I hazarded to step away from it, promising to look at it again with fresh eyes. Sleep on it, I said. And you know what? I decided to ship the final product 2 days later. Ready or not, you guys waited long enough, so here it is, the finished backgrounds. I can say I had fun on this study session. If you're struggling with art block or in life in general, understand it's not your fault. Beating yourself up won't do you any good. If I learned anything from this year, is that it's okay to just step away from your desk and live your life. Go someplace different. Eat different things. Ask yourself, what do I want out of life? Carry a small sketchbook with you. Draw in it whenever the feeling arises. Stop when it's become too much. Above all else, never do it for the money, but look for the joy in it. I don't think I would have completed this project if I didn't make time to find myself again. See you around, and don't give up.